Hey guys, welcome to the channel, and here's the verse of the day, Hebrews chapter 8, verse 7. So, for if that first covenant had been faultless, then no place would have been sought for a second. So, this is the epistle to the Hebrews. It's generally attributed to Paul the Apostle, but also could be Priscilla and Aquila. I'll just go with Paul. It was written by Paul the Apostle. He begins with, the first 6 verses are just talking about Jesus being the ultimate priest. So Jesus, our heavenly priest, a summary of points previously made regarding Jesus as our high priest. His priesthood had a sacrifice and a better sacrifice. His priesthood had a temple and a better temple. And the result is Jesus presides over a superior priesthood with a better covenant and better promises. So he's our mediator for this great covenant, so on and so forth. So, which was established on better promises. That's in verse 6. So, Jesus has better promises for us. These are promises to see us through the most desperate and dark times. These are promises that become alive to us through the Spirit of God. These are promises of blessing and undeserved favor instead of promises to curse and judge. So, verse 7, the fact that God mentions another covenant is proof that there is something lacking in the old covenant. So if the first covenant had been faultless, it is in the nature of man to come up with things that are new but not needed. God isn't like that. If God established a new covenant, it means that there was something lacking in the old covenant. So verses 8 through 12 mention the new covenant as it is presented in the Hebrew scriptures, quoting from Jeremiah chapter 31, 31 through 34. So finding fault in this passage from Jeremiah 31, God shows that something was lacking in the old covenant because a new covenant was promised. In the days of Jeremiah, the new covenant was still in the future because he wrote, "Behold, the days are coming. So I will make." The Lord made it clear that this covenant would originate with God and not with man. At Sinai, under the old covenant, the key words were "if you," Exodus 19:5. But in the new covenant, the key words are "I will." So it depends on God, not on the people. It focuses on God. So I'll read the passage real quick. "Behold, the days are coming, says the Lord, when I will make a new covenant with the house of Israel and with the house of Judah." So a new covenant, the covenant is truly new, not merely new and improved in the way things are marketed to us today. Today, products are said to be new and improved when there is no substantial difference in the product. But when God says new, he means new. With the house of Israel and the house of Judah, the new covenant definitely begins with Israel, but it was never intended to end with Israel. An enduring word here references Matthew 15:24 and Acts 1:8. So, "Not according to the covenant that I made with their fathers in the day when I took them by the hand to lead them out of the land of Egypt." So that is reference to, Jacob, Abraham, Isaac, all the forefathers that God made the old covenant with. So because they did not continue in my covenant and I disregarded them, says the Lord. The people of Israel did not continue in the old covenant. So because they did not continue in my old covenant, the weakness of the old covenant was not in the covenant itself. It was in the weakness and inability of man. So, "For this is the covenant that I will make with the house of Israel after those days, says the Lord. I will put my laws in their mind and write them on their hearts, and I will be their God, and they shall be my people." So the new covenant features transformation from within, not regulation through external law. So it doesn't depend on a law like the law of Moses, following all that. It's inner transformation through the work of Jesus Christ. Through the work of Jesus Christ. So I will be their God, and they shall be my people. The new covenant also features a greater intimacy with God than what was available under the old covenant. So, "None of them shall teach his neighbor and none his brother, saying, Know the Lord, for all shall know me, from the least of them to the greatest of them. For I will be merciful to their unrighteousness and their sins, and their lawless deeds I will remember no more." So it offers a true, complete cleansing from sin, different and better than the mere covering over of sin in the old covenant. So it completely cleanses sin, and all from the least to the greatest will know God with the new covenant, our current covenant. So also, it says with the house of Israel and the house of Judah. It begins with Israel, but never intended to end with Israel, like I said before. So that's why it's worldwide. Finally, verse 13, in that he says, a new covenant he has made the first obsolete. Now what is becoming obsolete and growing old is ready to vanish away. So he has made the first obsolete. Now that the new covenant has been inaugurated, the old covenant is thereby obsolete. What is becoming obsolete and growing old is ready to vanish away. The message was clear to these discouraged Christians from Jewish backgrounds who thought of going back to a more Jewish faith. They simply can't go back to an inferior covenant, which was ready to completely vanish away. So the old covenant vanishes away, the new covenant is instituted. So we have a new covenant to follow under, the covenant made by Jesus Christ, and it cleanses sin and everything. So hopefully I taught this okay. So thank you for watching, guys, and have a blessed day. Peace.